Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Scots Scheme with Macalester College head football coach Coach Jennison. The Scots Scheme is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Macalester coach questions about the Scots, football or sports in general, or just seek Coach Jennison's wisdom about life events. In this week's program, the coach talks to us about the upcoming game against Hamline. He shares with us if he's a Star Trek fan, and Senior Defensive Captain Glen Hartford joins us for 5 minutes on the show. So let's get right to the Scots Scheme. Well, let us welcome back to Coach Jennison to the Scots Scheme this week. Coach, let's first of all begin with team updates you might have for us.
Team updates were actually pretty healthy coming out of the Carleton game. It was a hard-hitting game, and it was a pretty physical game, and we were very tired after the game because I think we played with great energy and great passion, which I think really helped us win the football game. But overall, we're pretty healthy going into week 2, and certainly hope that continues.
Well, let's talk a little bit about last week's game. Big offensive showing out of your offense there.
Yeah.
Do you see the passing game as the strength of your offense now?
Well, I see it as a strength, but I think that we can run the football as well. It just happened to be part of our game plan this past week that, we were nervous about how big they were up front. They had some good players up front. And we felt like in order to run the football, we need to tire those big guys up. So we went in with the idea that we were going to throw it around a little bit, hoping to wear them down. And then in the second half, we were able to run the football with more success. So I do see the passing game as a strength, but I think over the years we've been a pretty good football team in terms of balance, being able to run the football and pass the ball effectively. So that's what we really want to do. So I see both as having the potential to be strengths, if that answers your question, Rob.
Christian Adams throws for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns this past weekend for you. Tell me a little bit about how you assess his performance.
Well, I'm really proud of Christian and happy for him because he was put into a tough spot last year in a starting role, and he might not have been completely prepared for that. And he ended up losing his starting job midway through the season. And he's worked hard. He's studied the offense. And as I mentioned last week, I heard Mark Davies, our offensive coordinator, say that he felt Christian was as prepared for this game as any quarterback we've ever had going into week 1. So I was proud of Christian for that. There's certainly things that he can improve on, and he knows that. We do need to do a better job of protecting the ball, but not all those interceptions were on Christian either. There's times where our protection needs to help out a little bit better, or our receivers need to run crisper routes at the top of their routes or whatnot. But overall, very pleased with his poise. The second quarter did not go well, and he fought through that adversity. He showed a lot of toughness, and he came back and really played well in the second half. So again, very proud of his performance and happy for him as a young man.
While there was a lot of talk about the offense from this past weekend, your defense really stepped up, especially if you consider the first 2 scores that they got where they had good field position to start out with. What were some keys for your defense this last weekend?
No question about it that the defense was stellar, and they have been for the better part of, I'd say, about 3, 4, 5 years now. Marshall Mullenbach does an awesome job leading our defense, and I think we just have an outstanding coaching staff over there with Blaine Coonsey in the secondary, Zach Johnson and Phil Archer coaching the linebackers, and Lee Nystrom with our defensive front. They're a great staff. They've all been together. I think this is, for Lee, Blaine, and Zach and Marshall, it's at least 5 years together. It might be 6, and Phil's been with us for 2. So we've got a great staff on the defensive side of the ball, and they really put our players in position to make plays and hold them accountable so that they're ready to go. But some of the keys, I really think the toughness piece of it. Our defense was in some tough situations, but they never got down. They never pointed fingers and blamed, the offense or anything like that. They just basically felt that they could handle anything, and whatever challenge it is, just bring it on. We can handle it, and I was really proud of them for that. And I think that starts with our leadership, our senior leadership. Certainly, our captain Glen Hartford. We've got Nick Eggersdorf, who's a senior defensive lineman. Daniel Abramowitz, another senior defensive lineman. I think those guys are big parts of it. And in the secondary, we've got a number of seniors as well, with Trey Johnson, Awanga Shalita, and I know I'm probably missing someone else. I can't think off the top of my head right now, but again, I really think it's the leadership from the coaching staff, and then the senior leaders, and then the young guys see how we do things, and they follow along. So again, that toughness, I think, really showed through. The physicality. Our defense played fast the entire game. Even when they wore down, they continued to play fast, and they continued to play physical. And to me, that was really the difference in the game. Our defense took over that game and got us a win. And I was really proud after in the huddle after the game, Alec Beatty stood up, and he had one of the books of knowledge in his hand, and he said, that he had something to say, and he said, "Defense, this is for you, because you guys had our back throughout the whole game." And I thought it was just outstanding leadership for Alec to say that, and it was the truth. Defense won us that football game. It was great to see.
Your defensive line was able to get a lot of pressure on their quarterback, which was something you had concern about entering the game. What were some things that they were doing to keep Zach Creighton in the pocket and really get pressure on him?
I think just playing within themselves, understanding, who the contained person is, and making sure that person stays square with his shoulders so that we don't lose contain. And we also brought a lot of pressure as well. So we had some linebackers that were in on that mix to help out. But definitely it was great to see us play well up front. Obviously, losing a guy like Zach Hauser last year, you have concerns about what you're going to do up front and who's going to replace him and whatnot. But they really stepped up. Nick Eggersdorf was one of our players of the game for how well and tough and physical he played in there. He played over 80 snaps of defense, and I know he had at least one sack. He might have had 2 sacks. Yeah, 2 sacks, and just played with great effort the entire game. Nick kind of reminds me of the Energizer Bunny. He doesn't slow down at all. He never wears down. He just keeps going and going, and I love him for that. It's great. And Liam Peebles, I thought, just played an outstanding game as well. It was his first college game ever on the defensive line. He's been an offensive player for us, and we moved him into that role last year because we knew we needed some help. And he as he did on offense, I mean, he is one of the toughest football players I've ever worked with. He just brought that intensity and that toughness and just kept coming all game long. He pursued hard and just did a great job. And we had other guys too. Daniel Bromwitz played very solid, as we expect out of a senior. Joey Rothstein, a freshman from Durham, New Hampshire, stepped up and provided some meaningful snaps as well. So very proud of what the guys have done in there and how well they've improved. And again, I think that's really a credit to Lee Nystrom, Marshall Mullenbach, and the defensive coaches over there, but also that senior leadership to get those guys in the heading in the right direction and the right mindset.
This week you take on Hamline. Justice Spriggs, their quarterback's a really dynamic guy with quite an accurate arm on him. What do you try to do to get him contained?
Well, hopefully he doesn't put pads on. Maybe that'll be the best way. I don't know. He's a very good quarterback. I remember we recruited Justice. He's a talented player. He's a big, strong young man with a great accurate arm, like you said. He can chuck it. It seems like a country mile, and he's athletic enough too, where he can pick up first downs with his feet. So he poses a real problem. We're well aware of that. I haven't slept a whole lot, especially last night, and he's probably one of the main reasons why. Looking at their offense, but they've got good players around him too. Their receiving core is talented. They're big up front. I mean, they always have a big line. They're always very athletic, and I like their backs too. And they do a lot of different things offensively with a lot of different formations and concepts and whatnot. So, like every year, it seems as though they're a challenge, and I think a lot of it has to do with their talent. And Justice certainly stands out when you watch them on the film. In terms of containing him, I don't think we're going to change who we are defensively. It's not like we're going to come up with some brand new schemes or anything like that. So we're going to be who we are, and I think we're just going to try to throw different looks at him and different coverages and stuff like that. But at some point you hope that we can get some pressure on him and make him a little bit uncomfortable back there. But obviously that's going to be a challenge as well because they're pretty good up front. So we definitely have our work cut out for us this week.
Hamline has traditionally been a pretty solid running team, but last week didn't really go to the ground very much against Crown. Do you expect that to be different against your team this week?
Yeah, they have been, and they've really pounded the ball on us. And, yeah, we expect that. I don't think they needed to against Crown. I think it's a game where, they had more talent, and so they were working on some things, and I think their coaches knew that. And certainly, they were throwing the ball pretty effectively, so they didn't need to necessarily run. But when they did, they were effective with it. Their two running backs, well, they've got a couple different running backs, but I know number 5 had the bulk of their carries last week, and he's quick, he's athletic, he's hard to bring down. And 29's a guy that didn't get as much carries, but he looks like he's got some ability. And my guess is that they're probably saving a little bit of him for us, number 29. So they've got the people in place, and like I said before, they've got a very strong offensive line. They're big up front. They move well, and they've got some good tight ends too. So I would not be surprised to see them come out and try to pound the ball against us, because, as you mentioned, they have had success historically against us that way. So we definitely need to be prepared to stop the run, but you can't go to sleep on their quarterback, because once you do that, he's going to be trying to hit something over the top. So we need to be very sound if we're going to win this football game this coming Saturday.
Hamline has not traditionally been a very welcoming place to you when you've appeared there. Your team has gone to there. What do you try to do to get on top of them?
I think you just try to be aggressive. You try to not play outside of yourself. Be who we are. We're not going to change things. We're not going to drop some elaborate schemes or anything like that. We want our players to play fast, so we want to do what we do so that they're confident in what they're doing. You just hope that you can get a break early in the game, maybe with a turnover or a big play on special teams, or to catch them in something where you maybe score early on. That would be ideal. But essentially, I think for us, we just need to be ourselves. We need to play hard. We need to play with poise. We need to play fast. We need to play physical. And if we can do that and obviously limit the big plays against us and make some plays, we should be competitive. But they're certainly a team that they're a challenge. There's a reason that they've been a challenge for us for a number of years is because they're talented. I'll tell you what, they're number 1. I think that dude should be wearing a Vikings jersey. He is a great player. I think he's from the metro area. But he is a phenomenal player. I watch him, and I'm very impressed, and I have been over the years too, because he's played a couple different positions for him, and I don't even know what year he is. I hope to God that he's a senior, because I'm tired of seeing him. He is a great player. I'm trying to look it up right now. Yeah, it looks like he is a senior from Brooklyn Park, Anthony Hill. He's a great player, and he's going to be a challenge for us. And they've got other guys too that do that. They're defensively. You didn't even ask me about defense, but I guess this is my show, isn't it, Rob? So I'll go that direction. Their defense has, they've got athleticism. They're aggressive. They mix things up really well. And I heard Mark Davies talk about how every year he feels as though the Hamline defense is one of the harder defenses that we have to prepare for throughout the course of the season. Maybe the hardest. So they do a really good job on their defensive staff, making it hard for teams to prepare for them with all that they do and how aggressive they play. You're right, it has been a tough spot for us historically. So hopefully we can make some breaks for ourselves, make some plays, and put ourselves in a good situation early in the game, and hopefully that will continue. But it's certainly going to be a big challenge for us. There's no question about that.
It's good you reminded us that it's the Scots Games with Tony Jennison.
That's right. That's right.
I remember about that. After last week's game, I think a lot of people want to know, should we kind of expect the unexpected out of this offense this season?
I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, we are who we are. I think one of the things we do a very good job of is we take what the defense gives us. And if we feel that there are openings in the passing game, well, then we're going to try to attack that. If we feel there are openings in the running game, we're going to try to attack that. So I think we're very wise in that regard, and we're going to do what we feel is in our best interest based on what the defense is giving us. Just so happened that with how Carleton played, we felt as though we'd be more beneficial going through the air again. It was part of the game plan going in as well, but we knew historically, what they were going to look like defensively, and we just felt that we could throw the ball more effectively against them than running the ball early in the game, and we were right about that. And I do think it wore them down, and when they started overcommitting a little bit to the pass, then we started running the football a little bit, and again, I think our offensive staff, led by Mark Davies, has always done a pretty good job of taking what the defense gives them. So I guess then we are a little bit of an offense where you're not sure what you're going to get, because it really depends upon what the defense gives us, and I think we have the ability to adjust pretty well.
Heading into our fan questions this week, we first of all begin with Jack from St. Paul. He asks, can you gauge how good the Scots are in the Midwest Conference by beating a team like Carleton? What I mean is, where would Carleton rank for you if they were in the Midwest Conference?
I don't know that you can gauge how strong we are by one win. It's week 1 of the season, and it's a long season, and if we stay stagnant, we're not going to compete well in the Midwest Conference, because we proved it last year, 2 years ago, when we won the conference championship. We had some very tight games with some of the lower ranked teams in the league. So for us, we're trying to get better every week. We're trying to get better every single day. And if we don't do that, we're not going to compete well in the Midwest Conference. Now, in terms of Carleton, how would they rank in the Midwest Conference? I think they'd be competitive. I think every year it's a slugfest with us and them. It's a competitive game back and forth. And I think how hard they play and some of the athletes they have, and they're a pretty physical team too. I think they compete well in the Midwest Conference. So. Again, I don't know in terms of ranking based on their roster size. I don't know that I'd put them at the top by any stretch of the imagination, because the top teams in our league typically have 100 plus players, and Carleton doesn't. I think they're around 60 or 70 players on the team. So football's a numbers game. So I don't know that I put them near the top of our conference, but I think definitely they would be competitive in our conference. I believe that.
Gene from Chicago would like to know, do you think playing for the Book of Knowledge is kind of a goofy trophy?
Goofy? No, I think it's awesome. Our players love it. I think I think Carleton, I think they enjoy it. I'm not sure where it started. I heard that it started years ago. Just the Carleton coach had the idea of doing it just to make the rivalry mean a little bit more. I also think this was at a time when Macalester was really struggling, so they knew they could win it pretty easily. But no, I think it's great. We love it, and it just brings more pride and more attention to the game, and it makes the game mean a little bit more when you're playing for something, because in a non-conference game, it really is a game that doesn't mean a whole lot. 2 years ago when we won our conference championship, we were 1-1 in non-conference play, but yet we went on to win a conference championship. So, and we could have gone 0-2 and done the same thing. So, no, I think it means a lot to play for a trophy, and us two colleges, Macalester and Carleton, being the two top-ranked academic institutions in the state of Minnesota. I think it makes perfect sense. So, no, I think it's great, and we love it around here.
Joe from St. Paul asks, watching Alec Beatty last weekend, I wonder how fast he is in the 40-yard dash.
4.22. Let's go with that. I have no idea. We test him out in the beginning of the season with that stuff, really just to kind of get a gauge on some guys. And I don't even remember what Alec ran. Quite honestly, I wouldn't care, because he's a great football player. I don't know that he's got the fastest 40 on the time. I don't think he does, but he's close. I know that he's probably top 5 on our team, or top 10. So I don't know what he runs. I would guess probably a 4.4, 4.5, somewhere in there. He's very athletic. He's a gifted football player, and he's a tough young man. He is a competitor. He's a great player, and you saw it out there on Saturday. You saw it last year too. Wherever we put him last year, whether it was quarterback, receiver, defensive back, he just made plays, and he was someone that stood out during the game. Anybody that watched a game of ours last year, you knew that number 10 was a player, and he didn't disappoint on Saturday. He had a great game, and really gave us a boost right off the get-go with our first big play of the game, the 96-yard touchdown reception, and then obviously solidified it at the end with the touchdown catch to get us to 30 points. So, yeah, he's a great player. He's very fast. I don't have any idea how fast he is, but fast enough to make plays, no question about that.
The important question is, could he catch a pass against you?
Nowadays, absolutely. There's no question about that. He's a great player. In my prime, I'd like to try it. In my prime, I'd like to take him one-on-one. Who knows? We'd see. In the slot, it's a little bit harder. It's an easier throw, but and I wasn't used to covering people in there. I was more used to covering people on the outside. But I think it might have been a good matchup. But who knows? He's certainly a better football player than I was. I know that for sure.
Bob from Anoka says, in listening to last weekend's show, you seem much more satisfied with the maturity of this team. Is that a correct assessment?
I'm very satisfied with our team and how hard they've worked and their maturity, their togetherness. I'm really proud of our captains. This is the first year that we've had captains here, which sounds strange. When I started this program, I always felt that if you're a senior in our program, you've spent 3 years around us, and in your fourth year, you are a leader in some capacity. And so we always had basically the seniors were captains. And this year, basically in my conversations with players after the season last year, we talked about some things, and they thought having captains would be a good idea. And so this spring we voted on captains. Our offensive captain is Trey Nowoshinsky, our defensive captain Glen Hartford, our special teams captain is Forrest Redlin. And those three have done an outstanding job of setting the tempo on offense, on defense, on special teams of what's expected, and basically helping hold our players accountable. And I think it means more when it certainly the coaches are going to send messages too, but when the players are backing up those messages, I think it takes on a different value. And our captains have done a great job in that regard. I'm really proud of Trey and Forrest and Glenn for their work. They've done a great job this year in leading this program. And so yes, I'm very pleased with the maturity of our team.
Next, we have Ben from Los Angeles, who begins by pointing out he's curious about your thoughts about something. On most college websites, sports is listed as a category near the top. However, on Macalester's, it is listed near the bottom of the site on the side.
Yep.
Do you think that sends a message to recruits that athletics is not valued as much at the school?
Not at all. I think what it sends the message is that athletics is important here, but what's really most important is academics, and that's who we are. We're one of the top-ranked liberal arts institutions in America. We rank in the top 2% of all colleges and universities in America. This is a rigorous academic environment, and that means we're different than 98% of those colleges out there. And we're very different than a lot of the colleges in this area. We are not going to lower our academic standards or give leadership scholarships or all these fancy merit-based scholarships to build a football program, and I love that. I love the challenge here. It's different here. It's harder here, but at the same time, it's more rewarding as well. When I first got here, there were 30-some players on the team. Actually, there were 20, and we recruited a few to get to the mid-30s. And there hadn't been a winning season in 20-some odd years. And I heard from a number of people I trusted in the coaching profession who told me not to take this job, not to come here, that you couldn't win here. I even heard that I'd be out of coaching in a couple of years. And the exact opposite has happened. We've taken a football program that had no pride. There hadn't been a winning season in a really long time. And we're smack dab in the middle of the best 8-year stretch in school history. And it's because of who we are as an academic institution that we've attracted some of the top talent in the country who are young men who are exceptional people, who are serious about challenging themselves academically, but also passionate about football. So the fact, yes, I know that athletics is not the top thing on our college website, and I like that because it means we're different. And if a recruit doesn't like that, guess what? They're not a fit here. And quite honestly, I don't want to talk to them because they're not going to be a fit here. So we want the people that are looking for academics first and foremost, who are really serious about challenging themselves academically. And if they're not, we're wasting our time. So no, I think it's a great thing, and I love it. And it's just another sign that we are different here, and I like that.
Our last fan question for the week comes from Michael from St. Paul. He says, Star Trek is 50 years old. First of all, are you a Trekkie? And secondly, original, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, or Voyager? Which is your favorite?
Unfortunately, Michael from St. Paul, I am not a Trekkie, and I have no idea what you just said. I'm looking at it here, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, or Voyager. Have no idea what that means. So I apologize, but I have no clue. I grew up, when I was a kid, Star Wars was kind of a big thing. So I remember going to the movies when I was young and whatnot. So I know they're still making those things, but I really haven't seen them lately because I've got other things to do. But anyhow, no idea about Star Trek. Sorry.
Our last part of the show, because it is the Scots Scheme with Tony Jennison, instead of having the good, bad, and the ugly, we're moving on to why is it good to be a Scot, a fighting Scot?
It's not just good, Rob. It's a great day to be a Fighting Scot. I think our players make fun of me because I say that all the time, but it's a great day to be a Fighting Scot because it's our last real practice day out here, getting ready for a rivalry game. We play for the old paint bucket with Hamline, and when I first got here, we hadn't seen that paint bucket, or Macalester hadn't seen that paint bucket in, I can't remember, it was 25 years, 24 years, something like that. We were fortunate enough a couple years back to gain that paint bucket. We won it for 3 years in a row. In the last couple of years, they've been whipping our tails. So we're excited. Rivalry games are fun. These trophy games, I mentioned it before, they're fun because it adds a little something extra. You're not just playing for pride in a non-conference game. You're playing for something that you're going to take with you and be able to show off for the entire year. And Hamline Macalester is the oldest rivalry in the state of Minnesota. To my knowledge, it dates back over 100 years. And certainly, we take that seriously. We want to represent Macalester College well, and we want to be prepared for the game and give our best effort out there. So it's a great day because we're going to go out on the field here in another hour, it's about 2 hours now, and we're going to get our last real practice in with pads for the course of the week, and hopefully we'll be executing well and hitting on all cylinders.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us this week, Coach.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate your time.
So we want to welcome Glen Hartford to the show. Glen, Coach Jennison talked to me this week about how you were one of the top players from the Carleton game. Tell us a little bit about what that victory meant for you.
I think as a senior class, it meant a lot. I mean, to win a rivalry game, especially starting off the first game of the season, is a huge momentum shift moving forward, so that now we can continue to focus on the teams we need to focus on. Personally, I would say that I was really proud of our defense. Our defense really held through tough times, and I was really, again, proud of our offense to overcome some obstacles to give us a lead when we were down. So I think as a team we played together that game, and I'm excited to see how this next game goes.
Let's talk about the defense for a moment, because there was a lot of talk about how do you replace a Zach Hauser. And the defense got great play from the line. The linebackers really seemed to help out a lot. Talk about what you guys did in that game that really worked.
Yeah, I think from the defensive line, they played amazing. Probably they played above their expectation, just because of the loss of Zach Hauser is a huge loss to our defense. But our linebacker core is an incredible group of guys, and the defensive linemen played really well. Our secondary was able to help out in the pass game and help out in the run. So I think overall as a defense, we played like one unit, and that was the best thing that our defense did on Saturday.
You had 7 tackles in the game. Tell us a little bit about your role on the defense and how you're able to make plays for the team.
I think as an outside linebacker, our role is to allow some of the other guys to get more tackles, but fill in where we need to when their gaps are open. So for us, 7 tackles is a good day in the office. We'd like more and things like that, but we want our inside backers having upwards of double digits in tackles. They should be making the most tackles, and the D line just playing hard to get at that quarterback. So I think what's nice about the outside linebacker position is we're very versatile, and we can go in and we have the opportunity to get sacks, or we can also help out in the pass game and potentially get a pick. So I'd like to see us do some more of both of that as this game comes up on Saturday.
Now, you've been here a few years, so you've seen Macalester's kind of a grinded-out offense. When the team comes out throwing the ball, you're like, wow, look at this.
Yes. The offense, I think, passing-wise, had everything going. There was a little bit of issues towards the second quarter, but they focused on what they needed to focus on and got right back into the game, and they put us up ahead of Carleton, and they gave us the opportunity to win that game. So I really appreciate the offense's adversity through that, because and it's going to be an up and down season, and times are going to be tough, but our offense pushed through, and we were able to get a win.
This season, Coach Jennison names team captains for the first time, choosing you to be the defensive captain, and gave me just a glowing report about what you just meant to this team in general. Tell me a little bit about the honor of being named captain.
Definitely an honor, especially for the first year we've ever had captains under Coach Jennison. But I think that we represent the senior class as a whole, and as long as we are continuously portraying the message of the senior class and how we want to continue moving forward with a positive environment and respecting the game, that really it's a senior class effort. But I'm thrilled to be the leader of a physically tough-nosed defense, and I think our defense is going to do a lot of great things this year, so I'm really excited for that opportunity.
Let's talk a little bit about in the first year here. Everybody's going to be comparing you of future captains to you when you really look at it. So what do you try to do to establish that portion of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, Trey, Forrest, and other captains throughout the year, it is important for us to set a standard where we respect each other, we focus on the team first, and if there are issues on the team, then we can handle it from a player's point of view. You know, the coaches don't always need to step in, and sometimes it's got to be on the players. So I think taking that responsibility is important as a captain, as well as continuously motivating other members when times get tough and we got to go through adversity in order to get through those challenging times. I think that's when, that's the standard that needs to be set by the captains. And hopefully we're setting that standard so that next year and the years after that, they can fulfill those standards as well and maybe exceed them.
You talked about how Carleton was a big rivalry game. You have Hamline this week, another big rivalry game for the team.
Yes.
What can we expect out of the defense for this weekend?
I expect nothing less than a physical game. Hamline is a great team. They've got a lot of weapons from an offensive perspective, but our defense is extremely physical, and we expect to be physical with the entire game with them. And we know that they'll probably change up some things as well, so we'll be looking for that. But otherwise, the defense is going to be defined by how physical we are throughout the entire year, and our physicality is going to win us games.
After the big first victory, how well do you think this team can be this season?
I think there's a lot of potential, and I think if we focus one game at a time instead of looking down the road and talking about all the possibilities, I think that's what's going to define our season or not. So right now, I know that there's always talk about how far can we go in the conference and things like that, but I think for the most part our team is really just focused on Hamline this week, and then we'll go from there.
A lot of people will tell me there's great reasons to go to the college or university they chose. So finishing out the show, why is it great to be a Fighting Scot?
Fighting Scot. So the reason why I'm a Fighting Scot is because of the brotherhood that this team has. So our brotherhood is so tight. We have such a tight team this year. We are focused on each other and just winning for each other. And I think that that's so important when you have people that you want to play next to, and rather, there's going to be times when things get tough and there's going to be problems, but having those guys next to you and willing to fight next to those guys, that's what makes a Fighting Scot a Fighting Scot.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us this week, Glenn.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We want to thank Coach Jennison for joining us on the Scots Scheme this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Macalester coach, please send them to us at TonyJennison@minorleaguesportsupport.com. That's TonyJennison@minorleaguesportsupport.com. Please have your questions to us by Wednesday evening so we can give the coach a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report.